Hey folks, and Happy New Year everyone. So I saw that there's recently been a lot of squabbling on Oakwynd between boxers and botters. I wonder if our buddy Ugluck was present. Well, you know what they say. The lower the stakes, the more bitter the battles. Imagine not clearing Vexthal several times week one when Triple Loot was running. Anyway, enough about old stuff. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up if you're going to try anything in open world and Planes of Power, it's going to be pretty much completely broken if contested due to the encounter locking implementation. So that'll be a fun thing to look forward to. We pointed this out on the forums during Velius, and they agreed to remove it on a bunch of events for Velius and Lucklin, but apparently not for Planes of Power. Funny story about that, one of the mobs was Emperor Sra, but it kind of seemed like it was still turned on for him, so maybe the devs actually turned it off for the level 1 Invisible Man version of the Emperor. Whoops. Well, hey, at least that led to the Mossad finally getting an open world kill on something useful. The issue with encounter locking, once you start getting into Planes of Power events, is that the encounter locking system is just very simply implemented, so there's a lot of possibility for griefing. It kind of seems like every mob is just on its own encounter locking group, so if you start thinking about an event like, say, Kornov, you could have someone just tag some of the waves and sit there with them until the timer goes out and basically just grief the event entirely. Probably my quote-unquote favorite one is Plane of Innovation, where you could grab a spider and lock it to you, then just drag it into the room and blow the whole event up spectacularly. And while there's ways to break these locks, it's probably not reliable enough to do that mid-raid, etc. I've got a couple detailed explanation of fights I'm attaching to the end of this video that have already been sent to the devs and posted on the bug thread forum months ago and not actioned, so y'all can get a better picture of what I'm talking about. This was only testable for a week on test server a while back when they enabled it there. Alright, good luck out there everyone. Hey folks, I've been testing some of the different encounters on test server recently to see how they interact with the encounter locking system that is implemented on Oakwynd. The devs turned on encounter locking for just a week on the test server, so now is the time to check it out. I'm mostly interested in seeing how these fights would play out in the context of multiple groups or guilds contesting the event. A few days ago I posted some video about Valentzek, which wasn't a really functional encounter in their current implementation at least. Today we're going to look into Valentzek, which is also an event in Plane of Tactics in the Planes of Power expansion. My setup here is 3 different groups, which are a warrior, an enchanter, and a bard, with each having a cleric merc as their second group member. The unique thing that I want to look at, which we can see with Valentzek, is that waves of mobs spawn, so the question is how encounter lock persists through the waves. Specifically here, each of the waves has a particular trigger mob that'll cause the next wave to spawn, so you generally want to try to kill that one last so you don't overwhelm yourself. I've got high level tunes here, so I'm just ignoring that and not really worrying about killing the right one or anything. So basically, as you can see from the last couple of minutes, what happened was that my warrior charged in after triggering the event and aggroed that first wave, so he got encounter locked to them all. He whittles them down, but then you can see as the new waves spawn, they just kind of aggro whoever's standing nearby first and get locked to that group. At this point, they're basically all aggroed to my enchanter's group, and the warrior has gray nameplates to everything. In order to be able to attack them, I'll need to go through and /yell them on my enchanter, which I slowly do. Not the most proficient display of boxing skill going on here, to be sure. Right, so I don't think encounter locking then really works for this event either. It kind of defeats the purpose to say just whoever tags the last quote-unquote non-fake Valentzek is going to win the event. Also, it's not really hard to just outright brick the event if you grab one of the triggers and then just stand there with it. This type of event is then another one that'll need some more implementation help on, or it'll kind of be a mess when Planes of Power is released on Oakwynd in January. Okay, good luck out there, everyone. Hey folks, so I've been taking advantage of the encounter locking system being enabled on the test server the last few days to try out some of the upcoming raids that we'll see on Oakwynd. We've already experienced some non-optimal behavior on Oakwynd with encounters that are spawned from other bosses like Vulak in North Temple of Ishan or Avatar of War in Kale. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, but every mob in those encounters is just their own locking group. So if you kill Statute and Idol, for example, it doesn't matter for the Avatar of War block. Dumb stuff. Anyway, the first test I'm doing here is for Talon Zek in Plane of Tactics. That's in the Planes of Power expansion. If you're not familiar with the fight, basically he keeps respawning around the room as you kill him. My setup here is 3 different groups, which are just high-level characters with a Cleric Merc each. I've got a Warrior, a Bard, and an Enchanter. So I first aggroed it on the Warrior, and you can see when it ports around the room, it's staying locked to the Warrior. You can tell that by the color of the name. When the name is green, that means that your character can do detrimental effects to the mob, but when it's grayed out, it cannot. I'm not recording on the other screens here, but the name is grayed out on the Enchanter and Bard screens. Also interesting is that the mob is dropping completely off aggro when it respawns for a second or so. That continues for a while. I'm not sure really if there's some kind of preferential targeting from the last target it was locked to, but I was eventually able to get the name grayed out to the Warrior when it repopped. Here the aggro is now locked only to the Enchanter's group. Very curiously, after that happened, the next time it teleports, it's become completely unlocked. You can see that my Bard is going to start attacking it, and that's a locking group that never had solo aggro or a lock on it the whole time. It's almost like the port caused it to be yelled this time. So I'm not completely sure even what the intent is from the devs for a fight like this where a mob teleports around the room. But if you can get your aggro lock randomly changed as the fight progresses, that's basically going to be unplayable in open world if contested. Planes of Power launches in a few months, so let's hope they can do something for fights like this before then. Alright, good luck out there everyone.